You're listening to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Now back to your hosts, Matt Hatfield and the coach, Ed Young.
Back here on the program, we have a special guest. He is the James Madison University football beat writer at the Daily News Record, which you can also read on the Rivals Network at dukesofjmu.com. We'll say good morning now to our good friend Greg Madia. Greg, how's life treating you?
I'm doing well. On my way down to the 757 area for JMU Norfolk State today. About just got past Richmond, so the drive is going well. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. We appreciate you coming on the program this morning. Of course, Norfolk State and James Madison kick it off at 6 o'clock today at NSU. Good matchup with a lot of Virginia flavor and, of course, 757 area code flavor, which we'll get to in a moment. But 24-13, James Madison lost at NC State last week. Didn't get the big, giant FBS upset, which they've had before, and some other high-level FCS and 1AA, if you want to call them, programs have had. What was your takeaways from that game before we get to the Norfolk State matchup today? What was your takeaways from the JMU Norfolk NC State game as they head into this one?
Yeah, Matt, I think the first thing is that they broke in 10 new starters on defense. They lost, a ton of really good players from last year's group. If you look back, Raven Green, Jordan Brown, 2 All-American safeties, in addition to Andrew Ankra, the defensive end, who was the Colonial Athletic Association Player of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year in 2017. And then, they get to game week and they find out Rashad Robinson, their All-American returning cornerback, is going to be out for the year with a turf toe injury, had surgery last week. So with all that said, they had to break in 10 new starters on defense. And I thought the defense really held up well against a North Carolina State offense with some pretty good weapons, including Ryan Finley, who will be likely one of the top quarterbacks taken in this year's draft, or next year's draft, rather. I thought pretty good day for the defense, holding NC State to 2.9 yards per carry. That was good. I think what happened late was that they had some breakdowns and they got worn down a little bit toward the end of the game. But all in all, a really good day considering that defense was breaking in 10 new starters and really it's a new look group. It's a different unit with a lot of young players involved. Offensively, Ben DiNucci, the Pittsburgh transfer quarterback, it kind of looked like a seamless transition. They stubbed their toe in the red zone a few times. 5 red zone trips and only 13 points to show for it. But he moved the ball. He helped that offense move the ball very well and kind of showed that there is some life after Brian Shore.
Hey, Greg, Ed Young here. That's what I wanted to kind of zero in on. Obviously, the heart of any team is in terms of one person, is the quarterback. With a group like James Madison, who's really well-rounded in everything, what was his impact going to be for James Madison, as you just mentioned, like that seamless transition, so they look already comfortable after game one with him?
Yeah, I think it's his ability to extend plays, and it was something Brian Shore was so good at last year and the year before as he guided JMU to back-to-back national championship games. DiNucci is probably a little bit faster. I don't know if he knows the offense as well. I don't think he knows the offense as well as Shore did quite yet. But he showed against NC State, which paid a couple of times for pass rushing and really trying to get after DiNucci. DiNucci showed that he could break the pocket and get up the field and make the opponent pay. And I think that's huge for JMU. They have a good offensive line. It's a young group, and then you throw in his ability to escape. Defenses should have a very difficult time getting to the quarterback for sacks this year against JMU. I think that is a real asset and a real attribute for DiNucci that helps this offense. And you throw in what he can do in the running game along with their running backs that I know struggled a little bit last week, but I think you look at Marcus Marshall and Cardin Johnson, the Warwick alum, and Trey Sharp as well. Those three should be fine in helping that run game go. And I think it all starts with DiNucci, though.
And then conversely, in this game, on the other side, under center, Norfolk State starting a true freshman at quarterback. Regular quarterback has been suspended. There's a young man that only has 4 passes thrown from last year. Now he's going to have the task of going against a very good, solid JMU defense. Do you kind of obviously in looking at the game, look at both quarterbacks and kind of have an idea where this one's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at last year's game, and it was kind of the same situation. Norfolk State was breaking in a freshman quarterback, and now Jawan Carter, who's a sophomore now, is suspended for this one after being ejected last week. And DeAndre Thomas, who will play quarterback for Norfolk State today, I think he's going to have a tough time. James Madison is going to throw different blitzes, different looks at him. And I know he had the spring there with the Spartans, is what Latrell Scott, the Norfolk State coach, told me earlier this week. But I still think that's a pretty tall task, a pretty big ask for Norfolk State to have their quarterback. He does have some nice weapons around him, Aaron Savage, the running back, but you better believe, and James Madison made a living off of beating up young quarterbacks last year, did it against Maine, did it against Norfolk State, did it against some others in the CAA, Villanova last year. And I have a feeling Bob Trott and that group will be ready to go, especially after losing last week. And this is a team for a group that's won a lot of football games. They've lost 2 straight now. If you look back at the national championship and last week at NC State, they're going to be pinning their ears back and ready to go after this freshman quarterback.
And certainly Mike Houston not a happy camper when he loses a couple of games because he's done such an outstanding job there. We're chatting with Greg Madia of the Daily News Record and dukesofjmu.com on the Rivals Network here on High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com on ESPN Radio 94.1 as the Dukes of JMU visit Norfolk State today, then Spartans at 6 o'clock. We're chatting with him about the matchup here on ESPN Radio 94.1, and last year it was 75-14. We've touched on how some pieces are different. Of course, new quarterbacks and Raven Green, an All-American safety from First Colonial in Virginia Beach, made the Green Bay Packers roster. He's no longer on the JMU defense, but there is a lot of local flavor, Greg, on this roster for JMU. I know you got a nice story on some of those players. You caught up with Cardon Johnson from Warwick, the running back, 6th year of his college career, finally gets to play in the 757 area code. Fill us in on how some of the local guys, Johnson and others such as Wayne Davis, Tucker Dorsey, are looking so far.
Yeah, I know. I know they're all excited, and for you look at those local guys, and they all have kind of an impact on this team. They're all a pretty big part of this team. Johnson coming off of back-to-back seasons where he had Achilles injuries that ended his 2016 and 2017 short. He's told me he's feeling really good. He's about as healthy as he's been in a couple of years. And for JMU, the biggest thing with Johnson is just to make sure he's able to get through a full season and finish his college career, kind of on a high note after he's had to rehab and work back time and time again from those Achilles problems. Some other guys, Wayne Davis, he's JMU's starting nickel corner. He's been kind of thrust into that starting lineup because of the injury to Robinson and some other injuries in the secondary. Curtis Oliver, Charles Tutt, those guys have been banged up, so it's allowed Wayne Davis, the Ohio State transfer, to get on the field right away and then start for James Madison. And he's been good. And Mike Houston, he told me, Wayne Davis can play nickel corner, he can play true corner, he can play both safety spots. So they like his versatility, and they like what he brings to the table just as far as being able to play multiple positions go. Keyshawn Moore, who's from down there too, he's their starting linebacker with Landon Word, the Virginia transfer, sidelined with an upper extremity injury. He had a great first week last week at NC State, 8 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. He's really come on strong and been a very nice piece for them this year early on as a redshirt freshman. Tucker Dorsey, Diamante Tucker Dorsey, Wayne Davis' high school teammate down from Lake Taylor. He's in the mix on special teams. You'll see him on a bunch of special teams tonight against Norfolk State, and depending on how the game goes, you could see him at linebacker as well. So plenty of local guys making an impact. Cole Johnson, he was in that quarterback competition with Danucci all the way into that first game week last week, and just came up on the short end. I think he's a very solid backup quarterback for James Madison, and he could probably start a lot of places if he wanted to.
Hey, Greg, question. We're talking about players from the area on both these teams from the state. When you look at this game today, is there more for JMU and to lose, or is there more for NC State or Norfolk State to gain if they get a win?
I think that there's more for James Madison to lose. This is a game they won. And they won this game 75-14 last year, and I think if they don't win by at least 4 or 5 touchdowns, there's probably something wrong. I do think the game will be better than it was last year, just because Norfolk State is a little older now, a little bit more experienced. They won last week against Virginia State, and they're coming off with a little bit of momentum. But there's certainly more to lose if you're JMU playing this game. If you come up short for some reason, would be very surprised, and would be a big shocker in terms of FCS football nationally if James Madison doesn't leave there with a win tonight.
You can follow him on Twitter at Madia, MADIA_DNR Sports. He's Greg Madia with the dukesofjmu.com on the rivals.com network of sites, and also with the Daily News Record. Greg, thanks so much for the time today, and I'll maybe see you there over later today, all right?
All right, sounds good, Matt, and thanks for having me on, guys.
You got it.
Thanks, Greg.
It's Greg Madia with us here on ESPN Radio 94.1. I'm going to try to make it over there later today if the weather is cooperative, which sometimes it can be Mother Nature. The last 4 games I've been to in person, I watched some games on the computer last night. I've had rain/lightning/delays. So I don't know if I'm going to jinx it later today with Lake Taylor Freedom and Norfolk State James Madison. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll see him, maybe I won't.
You probably will
don't know what to do.
My weather report has no rain. We're going to have a great
your weather report has no snow when we have 2 feet of snow. Your weather report has sunshine when it's cloudy.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I know I'm right. There's no way. Matter of fact, I'll make a bold statement.
Don't. Please. Cut his mic off, Thomas. Just
There's
stick to
no
the traffic
way
reports,
it's going
not
to
the weather
snow
reports.
between now and January.
I'm going to slap you upside the head.
There will be no snow between now and January 1st. That is a guarantee.
Yes, wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
Who let that guy in this place?
Get me a shovel so I can knock him upside the head with a shovel, and he can shovel the snow when it does come.
Those are odds you can use at Vegas. There will be no snow in Hampton Roads until after January 1st. I would take those odds easy.
Look, stick to the traffic reports. Don't start mixing weather. You're doing good enough with traffic.
Can you imagine if we're driving like this on a nice 80-degree day, what it's going to be like when the snow comes?
I don't want you on the roads. You should just Uber or Lyft here. All right, when we